Hello and welcome back to Just Deal With It. Happy Tuesday. Today we have an exciting topic called men dating and what we can learn from them. We have a great guest with us today, Louis, and I'm going to let Shanae introduce him and take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you. And by the way, I think all our topics are exciting. So I just want to
Yes.
throw that out there. So Lewis, he's a mindset and executive coach. I met Lewis, God, a few years back actually. And he works primarily with men, but I have to tell you, as a therapist, I've gone to Lewis myself because he's just got this really like Zen attitude, really great outlook in looking at things and just giving really great advice in whatever it may be. So I can see why people come to him for his coaching styles. Um, and so I thought it would be, we do a lot of talking about dating and divorce and just life and what have you. I wanted a man's perspective on emotions, how men think, especially when it comes to the dating scene, right? Like, what are men thinking when, they start to date, when they're doing apps, when they meet a woman? We really want that, Lewis. Like, what are you looking for in a woman? What is a man thinking with different type of women? And then what can we learn from you as far as how men think? So, really excited to have you today. Take it away. Tell us about yourself.
tell tell you about me. So first of all, it's a great topic, and all of your topics have been great, and I'm sure every topic you both do will be great. Yeah, it's so funny that I've within the last few days, this week, just with different men and different groups in my life I've been meeting with, they've been talking about dating. So I don't know if it's an alignment thing. It's kind of weird. Like I'm like I agreed to this a while ago, to be on here on your show, and everyone's talking about dating. I'm like, that's weird. That's alignment.
Serendipity.
That's serendipity. It's there. So yeah, but I love working with people, right? So it's very near and dear to me, and I know that we're going to get into this, but it's going to be a lot of not being able to say as much as I'd like because there's no way we could cover all this. But I'm going to jump in. Let's do it. Where do you want to start? Because I'm an open book.
So, I am thankfully taken off the market, so very happy about that. But as a woman, we have different attachment styles. Lewis, we've talked about that. The anxious, the avoidant, secure, and all that. But men are very different. Men tend to be more avoidant than anxious for the most part. I'm interested in knowing, like, what is a man thinking as far as when he's dating? He's going to go in. Well, the kind of women are different, right? There's men that just want to go in there and they just want sex. How do we know that? There's men that actually want real relationships. How do we remove them from the just as sex? I mean, I don't know. Like you said, we could go forever on this topic, but I don't even know how to like narrow this down as to what I want to start with.
Right? Yeah, let's start whittling away. But is that where you want to start? How do we know? Give me something
Yeah, because
already. How we
men are
know.
so you know, I
You know what?
think
No, let's not start there because
Mm,
okay, Shanae, I could tell you how we know if they want sex. They tell you right away, usually. When they
I don't
just
know. Lewis, so
trust
this is
me.
a good place to start.
They
yeah.
tell you right
Lewis, you know
away.
my last situation a while back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And you know that I was love bombed.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, this person was like totally wanted to marry me in relationship, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, it was all about sex.
Mm.
So some may be upfront, and I respect those men that say, listen, I just want sex. But there are those that come in and have a different angle. Like, what do you think of that?
So that's 100% accurate. It's 100% accurate because the fact is that it's so funny. The different groups of men I was speaking to just this week are from different places and different age groups and different kind of mindsets. But the fact is, in my opinion, I'll preface it with that most men don't fully know exactly how to express what is it they want. And I think most people in general, maybe not men and women, with my dating experience, a lot of women also don't know how to say exactly what they want now because a lot of people are not doing enough work on themselves, and that's really a big thing. That when men want to get into a relationship, or when they start dating, I think it's great. It's the appropriate thing to be able to say, "Hey, this is what I'm looking for," right? Or, "Hey, I'm I'm just looking for somebody to have fun with," or, "Hey, I am dating. I want to find a partner, but not but I'm also just seeing people, different people right now. I'm seeing multiple people. I want to see who fits. I want to see who works." That's the number one place I think people need to start from. And I find that it happens in different age groups too. That, if first of all, if they don't know what they want, and if they're just saying something, right? Because if you're just on your best behavior, like an interview, a lot of people, both men and women, from what I see, consider dating a chore, a task, because they need to impress someone, they want to find someone for their own reasons, whatever they are, and they need an interview for them. And it becomes this whole thing. Okay, well, what do you do on an interview? Then you want the best thing. What you want to say, what the other person wants to hear, what you think they want to hear,
Of course.
right? And so even so, a lot of people, I think, don't pay the notion of just understanding where it is that they want and how to get there. It's kind of, they need to go through the messiness of understanding that, hey, I just need to know myself a little bit more deeply, and I need to be able to communicate with this person. But if I communicate with this person what I want, then they might not give me what I want. Okay, so see, there you go. There's a lot to be able to talk about and unpack for this, but say I could tangent off. Okay, remind
Okay,
me
so
again.
let me carry on with what you were saying. So
Yes.
Tam knows this about me. I haven't gotten a chance to tell you about that because
Hmm.
God, we haven't seen each other in forever.
Yeah.
But I love what you just said, because what you're basically stating is that man or woman needs to go from an anxious, disorganized, or avoidant attachment to a secure attachment. And that can only happen when they really figure out who they are and what they want. So being honest and saying, listen, I have no idea who the hell I am. I just really want sex right now. And I'm dating all over the place. And if something happens, something happens. People are too afraid to go there. So interestingly enough, when I finally did decide to start dating again after that whole other fiasco, I went in saying, I am going to be securely attached. I'm going to go in and be who I am. And if the person likes it, great. And if they don't, they don't. But as you stated, I feel like people come in, and I'm going to ask you this question to answer after, I guess. I feel women, so the question is going to be, do you think men do this? I feel women, for the most part, go in with this like mask and show what they think a guy wants. And they're really preppy and cute and fun and, maybe all this makeup on. And then like 2 to 3 months down the line, they start to come out, and they're like
Yeah.
annoyances start to come out. And like this and that bothers me. And then they start to self-sabotage.
Hmm.
Do you think men put that mask on? Or do you think that it's more women?
Yeah, it's 100% both. Like 100%.
Really? Tell me
Yeah,
what your man
really.
does.
Oh, it's basically the same thing. It's the unraveling that happens later in the relationships. That's why in the beginning, it's all just exciting and fun, because you're going into these new places, you're having these new conversations, everything's new, new, new. That's actually the easiest part of the relationship. I think you're attractive, or I find something attractive about you. So let's just hang out more. Let's do XYZ more. And then all of that is new. But then when you start to dive deeper, and just like all the work that the three of us care about, when you start doing deeper work, then it starts looking not as attractive. It starts
Yeah.
looking not as just pristine. And some people might even say that it starts looking ugly. But what's interesting is that within this ugliness, and I'm talking about, let's say, metaphorically and spiritually and mentally, you find the beauty in yourself as to, wow, what you can respect about yourself, and wow, what you should empower about yourself. So when you take that notion about the individual, about you doing that yourself, that's what needs to happen to a few different levels to the individual you're talking to,
Yeah.
right? So then when you don't have that kind of, let's say, awareness or respect or just knowledge of how to go about that, then when you start having these unravelings that happen, because that's literally just being a human, when you have these unravelings that start happening, then most people, and this is just that my experience for men and women, but I'll tell you more even from men's perspective, that a lot of guys don't know how to handle that. They're like, oh, she's starting to be like this now. Oh, I can start seeing maybe this isn't as fun, or maybe this is more difficult. But that's the work. A relationship, whether it's with the self or with somebody else, is like a ship, like a giant cruise ship that needs to be readjusted, and you're just in an open sea. You can't see the land.
Mm.
But every single degree really matters. And the fact is that you're supposed to go a little bit veer off because you're human. So it's like, oh, this person's starting to get a little bit annoying with this. Like, okay, that's actually normal. What gets more specific as to, okay, the skill level from the individual is when that veering off comes on, when that annoying thing comes along, then how do you readjust appropriately? So that's I could keep going. So
Okay,
that's
so
my,
but I have a question on that actually.
yeah, go for it.
I loved how the word raveling. I loved that. What makes a man stay around when he sees that the unraveling starting to happen, and there are some things that are not as perfect as they seem in the beginning? What differentiates the man that's like, yeah, I'm out of here, versus the man that's like, all right, cool, this is just part of who she is?
I think that's a very long answer. To start at the beginning would be having
I baffled him. Did you see his face?
would be patience.
He's like, oh no.
It's not
I
it's
can't.
not
This is getting
baffling.
deep.
It's just like, oh, here's the mountain. Like I see it. Like it's there. Man, hearing some of these guys earlier in the week, it's like some of them complaining about, well, women do this, well, a lot of women are like this. And I'm like, it's just patience is the
Yeah.
first thing. Because if you're gonna complain like guys are like this, I see so many in my thing, and then women are like this, and there's a huge amount of there's the heavy, what was it, the heavy 80% or the the grand majority who's just, whatever, surface level, TikTok, we're not doing a lot of work or listening in ourselves, let alone other people. We're going, okay, that's one thing. Like being able to have the patience to say, okay, even though I'm seeing XYZ in society, or seeing XYZ on TikTok, or seeing this and that with my friend group or who I'm hanging around with, what is it that I want and what is it that I need? That's one of the things that where it needs to start with, is similar to my other answer at the beginning. What is it that I want? And what is it that I need? I try to break a lot of these concepts down either when I'm just through years of just going through work of myself, but also when I speak with people, speak with clients about anything. To put in simplicity, it's like you got to know exactly what is it that you want, what is it that you need, because what is it that you're trying to go away from is the thing that's opposite of what you don't want or opposite of what you need, right?
Yeah.
Why I say that it's a mountain, why it's a deep, more layers, is because everyone needs boundaries, right? And everyone wants things that are important, right? Like let's say everyone needs to have values, like understand what their values and principles are. I think that's a huge step, right? I actually have mine written, have it for you guys. Sharing a few of them, right, is authenticity, peace, discipline, freedom. These are a few, right, of my values. And so
Is
I
that
would,
those are your values for
those
you
are
or for your
mine
relationship?
specifically,
Okay.
Okay.
as an individual.
Okay.
And maybe I want to find a partner. Okay, well, I don't have to speak. It's
He
I
has
want
an
to find a
amazing
partner.
partner, by the way. Just shout out.
I have a great partner. So we've been together for two years so far. 2 years and some change. A
That's
great woman.
amazing.
She's very cool. She's great. And so and we could get into that when at the beginning of that relationship later. But when I was actually when I'm looking for people or when I'm looking for someone, it's an easier place to say, okay, should I be backing away? Should I be distancing myself if they're going against my values, against my principles? Values are what you actually, points of who you are, right? Kind of like what you stand for in your life. And principles are how you act those things out in your life, what those mean. So then when you have things like, I want a woman to be compassionate or patient, great. I think we all have an idea of what that is. But what does that look like to the individual? And that right there is just like hours of conversation that can be had, because that really needs to be talked about with the individual, right? So if we have someone like, I remember you sent me something. And so let's say for do men like assertive women? And like the first right away answer is like, yes. Oh, absolutely.
But
That is
that's a
so great.
peculiar man that likes an
At
assertive
least for
woman.
me. Well,
It depends.
it
Some
very much
assertive
depends.
women.
It depends. Well, why? Because no one likes to, let's say I'll compare it to driving. You cannot, it's not a good idea ever to be an aggressive driver, ever, because that's dangerous. You cause an accident for yourself or others.
Exactly.
it is very important that you are an assertive driver.
Ooh, I love that.
Yep.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. So that's when I started learning driving years ago. That was a good one. Because you need to have, and especially if you grew up in New York City, like I grew up driving in New York City, Manhattan, and like these taxis are crazy. So that was a really good analogy for me because like if you need to be assertive to get in there and to show like, hey, this is the lane we're going on. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm still kind of nervous, but we're still doing it. Okay. Therefore, everyone else in the lanes who's there can see me. Okay, this is what's happening. But meanwhile, if you're just jagging in, maybe we'll unsure and maybe want to be aggressive. You're just gonna, oh, it doesn't matter who's next to me. We're just gonna go in. You're gonna cause an accident. That's not healthy for you or the people around you. So bringing it back out of the analogy as to why people would want to go away, as to why men would want to go away, is that they have concepts in their mind, right? So we can speak general and then go to specific. So generally, I think most people have notions of, I think I want happiness. I think I want to be understood. I think I want compassion. I think I just want to, grow with someone. Okay. But the understanding of what that means to a fundamental level to the individual is missing. And that is something that all three of us and thousands of other people who care about mental health can actually be able to help individuals with, both men and women. And I think that's very lacking on the majority side from both. But speaking on men, especially not having even as much verbal communication as to what that is, then that makes it even harder for men. To finish answering that question of why men would go away. So having the notion of communicating that, hey, this is what I need. Like, I need to have a partner that's patient. Okay, great. Well, what do you mean? Okay, talking about that with a person. Then understanding the wants, right? So maybe it's not a deal breaker, but like, this is really what I want. This is like, I would like to do this. And then these wants are where compromise falls in. Because you can't compromise on the values. Like, this is who you are. Like, hey, this is it. But you can compromise on the wants. Like, okay, maybe 40% this, 20% this, and I could give you more of that. So that's there's still, I feel much more missing to that conversation. But that's, do you kind of get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like what I'm hearing, which I completely agree with you on, it seems like, and you do such a great job with this. We've talked about your clients, Lewis. Really getting a man or woman cannot possibly be in an unsecure attachment style and know what they want and need, and then actually communicate that and be okay to be met with some what's that word? Not tension. Resistance. Thank you. I know this because so my partner now. Again, I went in very like, this is who I'm gonna be, and he still does this now, and it's really cute. He goes, well, you came in as you said you were gonna come in as you, and here you are. But can I tell you, it's like zero anxiety. He has zero problem saying no to something. I have zero problem saying no to something. And it's that mutual respect. So when we talk about, well, what makes a man stay around during the unraveling, I think it takes what you stated. It takes that person that knows what he wants, not what I think I want, but I know I want this. I also know I need this.
Yeah.
And if his partner, it's all a compromise, right? So if that person's willing to be, number one, respectful. I think respect in a relationship is just completely, it's got to be a need. It's an essential. Also understanding, like, listen, we're not always going to agree, and that's okay. Doesn't mean that we're not compatible. It just means we have differences of opinions on certain things. So I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe the unraveling, and this is something for you to like, piggyback off. Maybe the unraveling is that it takes two secure people to know what they want and need and be okay to walk away if it is not providing that peace.
So I'm incredibly optimistic, but I'm very practical. I try to be both at the same time. And then I think the optimist in me is like, okay, maybe you don't need to be so secure yet, right? If you want the label of secure attachment, sure, then okay, it's easier. But these people,
wait, would you say realist or optimist?
I'm an optimist.
But would you say that the optimist in you or the realist in you knows that you don't have to be so secure?
I'm incredibly optimist, but I'm also practical. That's how I put it.
Got it.
Practical.
Realistic optimist. That's what he is.
Optimistically realistic.
That just sound that sounds like a cop out. Actually, realistic. That sounds like I'm cheating. No, like a cop out. Yeah, for going on top of what you're saying. For I had one of the conversations I had earlier this week, a great friend of mine, where I said, hey, because like I'm in my life, I'm the person who is the most reaching out person, like the person who has the highest skill at like, hey, let me talk to this person. Hey, I haven't spoken to this person for a while. Hey, I want to rekindle this with my great friend, or I haven't spoken to my buddy for a long time, or there's a great relationship, personally, professionally, whatever. So one of my great friends, I'm like, hey, you know what? We should have time. I called him. Hey, we should have a time where we, like are able to just get together, just chill out and like talk or something. I said something almost exactly like that. And then he's half joking with me saying like, you have to put it like that. I mean, why do you want to say like talk? You need to talk. And then I've had tons of great conversations with him and in depth, right? He's a great friend of mine. And so he was half joking. I know it was though. And he's saying, well, why does it have to be talk? Why can't you say just chill? I'm like, okay, well, we've talked tons of times and you know what I mean? We're just hanging out. So what do you mean? What are you trying to say? And then he said, okay, because you remember, Lewis, when I told you, or when you saw, when I was in my previous relationship, on ex relationship, this girl was always saying, okay, let's talk, but it was always something
We
negative.
gotta talk.
Right. It was always negative. Right. And then I dug in a little bit during that conversation with him, right? On that same call of like, okay, well, and then we went a little bit deeper and like maybe his parents, a little bit of the same thing, right? When it was specific talk, then it's always something kind of negative too, right? I'm like, okay, maybe that's something to look into, He's like, oh, you know what? Okay, I didn't notice that. You're right. Whenever somebody wants to, let's say, talk with me, I do associate that, I guess, with being negative, right? Not just like let me try to understand you, but it's more of a, this is what you're going wrong, what you're doing wrong, what want to fix, right?
Yeah.
So does that scare a guy off?
Huh?
Does that, so what I'm hearing is not only does that scare a guy off from a guy to a guy, but a guy, woman, and vice versa?
So my point of bringing that up is that is one example of a microcosm of communication. Like this dude is just off of one word, right? Is just getting excitable or nervous, or maybe doesn't want to, maybe like in what the question you were asking, wanting to retract because of the way he was brought up. Not because we were doing it, not because we were having an honest communication and getting in depth with each other, but how it was brought up, right? So I've seen this tons of times and been annoyed by it tons of times in different ways. Not this exact thing, but guys have different notions of, if you're going to bring something up that is productive in your mind, but how you bring it up is important. So a lot of guys, and even stereotypically, if you're going to say, hey, we need to talk, then a lot of men are not prepared to be like, hey, you know what?
Gosh.
That sounds great. Let's have an engaging conversation. Like what you're feeling. You're like, oh, okay. They want that because all humans want that.
Yeah.
Right. But the approach may need to be different from both sides. So if you have someone who's experienced in it, right? So let's say like a gentleman, I'm a guy who's experienced in it. I'll do that all day. Like and I'm the one who usually initiates that in my life. But most people are not like that. Okay. If you take the same sentiment on the reverse side for women, because men make these mistakes to women in the women's eyes when they're just doing their own thing, when they're just walking around, just trying to do what they think is right. They're like, what did I do wrong? So right in the middle of both of that is a bow tie of just, what did I have? It was misunderstanding. It was just misunderstanding and not feeling seen or being heard. And I had a reconciliation conversation with my girlfriend not so long ago because of that. and that's what's happening, not just with you want to talk, but how do we have fun? In this time that we went out during the night, this person did this, right? Well, it looked like this as a guy. You actually have this with your friends. Well, this is what you said with your friends. Is this what you mean with your friends? Like, oh, or is she a great role model? Like there's all these like not chasms, but different lines of thinking that you can have that come from something small, and it's within, after you get in a few weeks to a few months, when the unraveling starts happening, you start, the best word I think in my opinion is projecting a lot of people
Mhm.
start projecting into the other person as to this person's starting to do this, or well, I've seen this before,
Mhm.
because everyone's an expert, right? Like, and they're not.
Yeah.
Nobody's
You can't be inside of another person's head.
they're
That's
not like
impossible.
that. It's the
Yeah.
first thing I said. It's the first thing I said today. People aren't doing enough of that work, which is okay. I mean, that's what we're here. That's what we're helping out with. But they don't know what's going on really. They don't know what's happening really. But very importantly, they know what they're feeling. They know that they're feeling something, which is 100% valid. Which makes whatever, if they're feeling something, whatever they're feeling, it's 100% valid. So then that middle ground right there of taking what they're feeling and then how to, okay, well, this is what I'm feeling. And you know what? This is what I think it means. And this is what I'm projecting. So usually that's from stereotypically and what I've seen from the women's side. Like they usually, every woman probably has strong legs, but because they're usually jumping to conclusions,
Yeah.
right?
Oh God.
That's
Great.
usually, that's usually the case. Like
Oh my God.
stereotypically, but men do that too, right? To different degrees. I don't know what different degrees or whatnot, but it brings me comfort and it makes it easier for me to bring the understanding because I know that because it makes it easier for me to create that understanding because I know that misunderstanding is happening
Yeah.
because I know that's happening.
But
So
that's
then
you, Lewis.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So in
but
in general, men,
yeah,
I love the fact that you're like, if you say we need to talk, a man kind of like, oh God, here we
yeah.
go, right? But in the dating scene, would you
Mhm.
say in about 2 months you kind of start to see the real person?
I think so. That's still the honeymoon period. I feel like 2 months.
I think that by 2 months you get to get a better picture. But Lewis is deep in thought on this.
He's really thinking about this. I mean, it
But this is
depends.
good because a guy's perspective. What is it?
Yeah.
Because a woman I think starts to get a little comfortable by 2 months and just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna release a little bit more, and then
So you definitely start knowing a little bit more about the person, but you definitely don't know them. I'm trying to
Can't.
have your question and take it in as if we're just talking, right? Like we're just like you and I are hanging out like we do. No, that's not enough time.
I'm not
Maybe
saying you totally know the person because it takes a
I kn-
lifetime to know
I
somebody.
know that, yes. And then because what you're saying is that you start seeing the person, right?
Yes.
That was your
Yeah.
question. And you do, if you want to be technical, yeah, you start seeing them right away, little pieces, sure. But when you start getting the unraveling starts to start, I think maybe sure, 2, 3 months, yeah, you start to see that. If and so if I were to take my experience and combine with other gentlemen, like if you as the individual, if your skill level, I would say, is there and your comfortability of being uncomfortable is there to dive deeper into the other person, you get to those notions faster. You get to the notions of okay, this person's putting up a front. Like you could see it. Like I've seen it in different women I was hanging out with before, and my girlfriend now or whatnot of just little things of here, like and and like I said, one of the first things on this on our meeting today, an interview, right? Most people are trying to interview. They put on the mask. It's both men and women. They put on certain masks, right? Please like me. They
Mhm.
like a
Flashing
lot
light.
of them don't even know like what they're doing as to what they want to be liked for, right? And like, let me not
Mm.
tangent off on that, but there's all
We're
these
gonna need
mini,
another episode, Lewis.
yeah, yeah.
That's
There's all
that's
these.
a whole different box of
There's a
goodies.
whole different box, and that's a whole box that people are not like. Okay, anyway, but to answer your question, I think you can know someone more deeply and more intentionally and a little bit more intimately. You can know them by 2 months. If you can start wedging in there, you can. But it's both men and women because I wish more women would do it and more men would. I just wish more humans would do it. Of just like, who are you as a person? A lot of people are depending on the activities that they do. Like it's scientifically proven already that if you're in the beginning stages with someone and then you're going to some excitable events, right? You go to a roller coaster or you go to the different exciting events, then that feeling, that physiology is associated with the other individual,
Yeah.
right? So it makes that person, oh, we're going to theme park. It makes that person more exciting. Like it attaches that to them. Okay, that's a little hack for people. Okay, but for any human, which is most humans, probably anybody who's listening to this, who wants to go deeper than that, then because that beginning part is still part of the mask thing, right? So if you're able to, besides just doing fun things, because do fun things, great. But besides that, if you're able to say, okay, what is it that you're let's see some of the questions. If you start getting into deeper intentional conversation of just like, okay,
Well,
well,
I'll give you
what do you,
one.
well, let me finish off with this. Hold
Okay.
on. I'm just like, because I'm trying to give you some questions that I would use or things of what I've stated, what I like to say of just like, what is it that you're trying to do? What is it that you like or don't like? Or
Hmm.
how does that feel? You start talking about a little bit of failures, of things that you haven't done, of things that you wish you've done. And you don't even give full life stories, but little tastes of your pain. That's something.
Mm,
Little snippets of exactly this is what I'm struggling with. And it does not have to, if it's like 100% of sharing what someone's struggling with, I'm saying people can start with 5%, with 10%,
yeah.
but like, hey, well,
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing or whatnot. It is when an individual is able to express their pain with someone else in an environment in which they are actually still just comfortable enough to do so in the first place, honestly.
Hmm.
That is one variation, not the only, but one pillar of how depth within a relationship, whether romantic or not, is built.
I
Okay.
just thought of a new topic that I don't know. I'd love to see if you're interested in doing, Tam. I mean, we should have Lewis on for the red flags to look at in dating with men.
I think that's a great idea, but I do have this question that I want to ask
Yeah,
Lewis
go.
before. I mean, we're already pretty far into the episode, but I think it's
Yeah.
important to think about like right now. I know that you're coaching men
Mm-hmm.
and the roles, right? The roles of women and
Mm-hmm.
men, and how controversial it is right now because we're in
Mm-hmm.
2025.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've been in a relationship for 3 years, and I was dating
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time before I
Mm-hmm.
met my person. Um, I've noticed how this has changed. Men are acting more feminine in
Mm-hmm.
relationships. They have expectations that in the 90s, for example, when you were dating, women had the expectations that men have right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
how are you seeing this when you're coaching?
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now with that? I know it's a loaded question. I'm sorry, but it's
No,
just
it's
so
good.
interesting to
It's a
me
great,
coming from you.
it's a great question. I'm thinking of three guys right now. Like I said, just
Wow, you
There's
put
recently,
me on
only
recently.
three.
campaign.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just, just, they brought up this exact thing because it's a popular topic. If you want to talk about dating and what are the roles? Okay. Um, so it's something I mentioned earlier about, the roles of society and things of that nature. It's important to pay attention to, sure. But what's going to always matter most is what that means to the individual. So, if you want to go with the classic kind of roles, like whatever roles you want, whether they're classic roles or current roles, like you need to stay what they are. But what that means as to how it's played out is still relevant to the individual. So, for example, like there's so much to talk about. So then, if you were to have, let's say, a woman should be what's one of the classic ones? Okay, let's take something super old school of just women shouldn't work. Just like don't work. Well, man provides everything, and woman just house and family. Just do that, lady, and man will
Ew.
provide. Okay, right. So that's super. Whatever. That's one variation, right?
That's old school.
Um,
Okay.
but tons of people are fine with that because that's the general statement. And even though that sounds kind of just very lopsided and kind of whatever, but if the two partners or people are having conversations, that's what they mean. Like, okay, and the woman saying, "Oh, okay, I get what that means. Well, okay, I actually like that because what that means for me as a woman means that I am the leader of one of the leaders of the household, and I can actually take care of what's here. And me and my partner are sharing this domain where we're literally cohabitating this life, and we're kind of both the CEOs of our life. But I'm in charge of the family and the household." And our house, we got to manage this so I can and then it goes deeper. I can manage the okay, let me not go too deep. But there's that. And meanwhile, my husband can provide because he makes X amount of money and that's it. So even just in the way I just kind of just described it a little bit, it was more like the woman would be saying that from an empowering standpoint of just this is what I'm in charge of. Well, I am actually choosing to do this in terms of this role, right? But if you were to say the same concept in a different way of the man saying, okay, I'm going to make all the money and I'm just in charge of everything. And the woman, my wife, is great. She's going to take care of my kids, but I mean, she's basically like a third kid. We have two kids, but I'm a third. She's like my third because I have to take care of her. And, I'm not really going to talk to her about business or anything because she's just, she just takes care of some tasks or whatnot, and but she takes care of my family. That's a very different place to come from. That's not a partnership, really. That's more of a kingship. Well, not
Mm.
oligarchy, but kind of that. Those are very two different ways that come across the same concept. So when I hear so many people talking about roles, they should have roles. They should play two roles, and that's fine if they have roles.
Mhm.
But if we're not talking about what those roles mean, then to the individual, then you're just not just placating, but you're just complaining into the void, right? I'll give you a specific example for me. All right. So I need to be with a woman who is at least semi entrepreneurial. She's an entrepreneur or intrapreneur, not because we have to be 50-50 on everything. Some things I'll be more. Maybe some things she wants to be more in certain paradigms of our life, right? Okay, cool. But I want to have me personally, I'll be with a woman who holds a sense of ownership and leadership, and who she's a boss woman on her own. But still, even when we have those things, then and she, my girlfriend has said to this to me also. She's like, sometimes I feel like I'm out there and I'm like killing it and doing this thing, being a boss. And I come back to you later on that same night, and I'm just like, oh, sweetie, like she
Aw.
gets
But
all,
that's
people
important
would say
though to be able to
superhuman, super,
feel that.
yes, yes, exactly. But that's a conversation. All of this, it boils down to, well, that's a conversation. You want to talk about what's being a man, right? There's of course the society roles, but then what does it mean to you? What does it mean within your society, within your culture? What does it mean to you as an individual? Well, because someone's calling you that, well, what does it mean to feel like one?
Well,
Because
let me
there's,
because I know
oh,
that we have to wrap this up soon. I wanted to ask this
oh, sure.
question. I think
Yeah.
we're just going to have to do another. Honestly, I think we're going to have you back. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is
Yep.
like, yeah,
but
scratching the surface of
but
stuff.
talking since we were talking about dating and roles and Tam, to
Mhm.
your point of like male female and all that. I guess the question that I just wanted to ask here was that when you are dating, you know, I don't know. I find that we're in a really difficult state because a lot of women still want that gentleman, right, that opens the door and all that. But she also wants to be that powerhouse woman that I can do things on my own. So I wonder, number one, if that's really confusing to men of like, um, how am I supposed to act with this person? So that's the first question. The second one is when you do go on a date, like, I mean, traditionally the man pays at least for the first date, right? I'm not saying they should be paying for all, but you
Yeah.
know, is that also something now that in the
Oh
dating
yeah.
world it's a bit
Yeah, let's go in
confusing?
reverse. I'm gonna answer that question first. So you can repeat the first one. But the second question, yeah, the man would pay. That's not a that's pretty normal. And if you want to be even like play devil's advocate, you could say the person who asks the other person out pays first. I mean, I think it's a great thing if the guy would still usually pay first. That's great. I mean, I guess the reason why that's a topic to bring up is because so many because what I'm hearing right now as I say that out loud is the backlash of men of saying like, well, a lot of women are just coming out for free food, or just, they're having a time, they don't need to pay for anything, you know. But it's true, women need to go out and sure be prepared of, I don't know, like make yourselves gorgeous. You're already gorgeous, like, okay, that gets into another layer of like, okay, you could just come up as yourself. Anyway, short answer is yes. I think men should be paying for most of the times. I'm sure there's a bunch of different reasons as to how women can pay first. It's fine, but it's usually guy. That's it.
Okay, but the second question was on,
The first
you
question
know,
you asked, yes, what was it?
a guy coming in, being that women are much stronger nowadays, more independent in multiple ways. But
Mhm.
there are those women also that, like me, I'm a strong and independent woman, but I like a gentleman. I like the door open for me. I like that a man would pay more of. I mean, listen, if a man is making more, I'm not saying he should pay all the time, but I think that it would be fair for him to pay more of the time,
Yeah,
right? But I am a strong, independent woman, but I like that the chair pulled out. The I like to be able to go into my partner's arms and just feel like I can just, bury myself in there and feel I guess vulnerable, not weak, but vulnerable, and feel like, he's got me, right? So I wonder if for men nowadays they find it difficult. Like, what kind of woman is this? Because the mask is on, right? So it's like, what is okay, what's not okay? And I'm just wondering if that's an issue in the dating world for men.
I mean, the real because when concepts like this are brought up, it's always just the question in my mind as to what needs to be answered is how much is enough? How much is enough? It relates towards what I was saying before, what your needs and wants are. You actually need to know that. But then how much of it? Okay, so someone needs to make, so for example, quick side example. So someone needs to make a certain amount of money to be with you. Okay, that's fine. You know, if that's one of your preferences or standards, right? And okay, well, how much is that? Right? And that's a number. Okay. But how much does that feel like to the individual? Is that enough for them? Right. So without getting too much on a tangent, it's you want someone who's chivalrous. You want somebody who's being able to have XYZ. The notions that I stated that I need to have in a partner before, right? You need to be compassionate. You be all these different things. Well, what does that look like and by how much? Because like I think it's everything that you're asking for is completely fine. And it's completely logical. And an emotional level, like I think that's beautiful. Like that's great. Everyone should have that. So why aren't people having that? Well, very simply, maybe it's a boring answer, but it's close to what I was saying before. It's that people need to discover what that is, but then when they're unraveling, like, oh, you know what? Shanae seems so feminine and in charge. Well, that's great, but I wish she was a little bit more feminine, or I wish she was a little bit even more in charge. Well, what do you mean? Well, how? How? I laugh because like that's the things. Even in my relationship, like we've gone through different little hurdles, right? But you could make what was it the adage, right? Mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
It's just people destroy their relationships because of that, because they're built. Some negative things are built on that they have a problem with, or built over something small. But if it's something like, hey, you know what? I have maybe you want from your partner, Shanae, that he's not being as loving as you would like. What does freaking mean first? Okay. So if you're more definitive about it, well, I'm not fully sure. But where I can start at was that I wish that when I would come home, then he would actually maybe just be able to sit with me, like literally hold me for a while. Like that does a lot for me, you know? And like that's probably not everything, but I know that. Like I would like to try that. So if you have that notion and communicate it with this person, that's literally life changing. And the entire relationship on a healthy relationship, in my opinion, is built a castle built on bricks just like that. Of like, wow. And then
Absolutely.
and to take real quick on what you were saying, one of the first questions you asked before on this annoyance thing, on the retraction thing, like the opposite of that. Like that's how you have a broken wall metaphorically within the relationship. Is like you're not repairing or focusing on what is it that is annoying you or
Yeah.
communicating, or maybe you're not even verbalizing at the first place. Something's just off about her. Something is just like she did this. You know what? Something must be wrong with her. So
Right.
that's
So
it.
we come down to
Yeah.
communication and the decision if you want to compromise or
Hmm.
with the person or not. But that
Yes.
all comes down to knowing what you need and want as an
Yes.
individual.
Yes. As an individual.
We circled it around to the end.
Thank you so
Great
much.
work. Great
Thank
job,
you.
everyone.
It's been
Oh,
a
thank you
pleasure. We'd
so much.
love to have you back.
Yes,
Thank
Of
yes,
you.
yes.
course.
Please.
Yes.
That would be
I'd love
amazing.
to I'd love to be back. Both of you are great.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Louis.
Thank you for
Okay,
having me.
guys. See you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Okay. Wait,
Yeah.
wait.